You'll almost always feel behind until you look back and go, wow, I have accomplished so much.
Well, even The Godfather has people that don't like it, right? So not everything is going to be for everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. If you're watching on YouTube, this is my hand. You will not be seeing much of me because we have an in-person guest. So we have had this man on, it was probably like a year ago?
Yeah, at least. Maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
It was a fire interview.
Oh, yeah.
He is a director who has a feature film that just was released and a dream chaser, somebody who has been doing this for a long time. And I know you've had people who didn't believe in you along the way. We are sitting down with the one and only Ryan Bliss. What's happening, my man?
How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
We're living the dream. We're living the dream. So for those who didn't listen to whatever episode it was, I don't know how long ago it was, just tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, and then we'll dive into your story and where you're at now.
So I'm a writer, director, producer, editor, kind of do it all in this crazy business. And, done a couple short films in the past, and my feature film debut came out this past week. So it's very exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So you want to go?
Yeah, sure.
I know you're chomping at the bit.
So my girlfriend Emilia, she talks about how much I love movies. I'm like, honestly, I'm obsessed with movies.
Same.
And yeah. And like, I'll always want to watch it. We have this shared intentions folder and all the movies we've watched together. I want to show her this movie. I want to show her that movie. You got to watch Inception, all that stuff. And I am always talking about different actors, and I'm talking about the industry and all that stuff. And she asked me, where did that come from? And I just remember you and I as little kids. And for those of you who don't know, Ryan Bliss and I kind of grew up together.
Oh, yeah.
Our parents were very close friends, my mom and stepdad and his family. And I actually worked, a lot of the listeners know I was a busboy and a cart kid. And that was actually at Crystal Lake, which his parents own.
Yeah.
And so we kind of grew up together, which was really cool. We've done actually...
Kinda. I think we
Yeah,
definitely grew up together.
yeah, we definitely did. And I've been in actually several of Ryan's movies that have never actually seen the light of day, which with like a Sony camcorder.
Funny you bring that up. We actually went through the old VHS tapes and found one with you
Really?
just the other day.
Was it a
very
horror
funny.
one?
It's a horror one. It's either a werewolf or a Bigfoot movie. We never finished it, but we're filming in the car, and you were outside, and all of a sudden you get thrown up on the hood of the car, and so we're like filming from inside. You're like.
Was I Bigfoot?
No, you were getting killed by Bigfoot.
Oh.
Bigfoot threw you on the car.
Oh, okay, and that was Corey, your brother.
I don't think we ever filmed Bigfoot. We didn't finish the movie.
Okay.
So it was,
How much money has it made? No,
yeah,
I'm
it was
kidding.
a weak attempt.
But basically, long story long here, Ryan is one of the reasons why I'm obsessed with film and movies, and I still adore movies. They inspire me all the time, and here we are today, which is kind of crazy. So my first question for you, brother, and answer this however you want. How challenging has it been to carve your own unique path towards your dreams in an industry that is so competitive?
Yeah, it's very challenging. Without any industry contacts or connections or anything like that, you got to almost buy your way in, and buying your way in is content. So you got to create your own content, and you don't want to jump into a feature film right off the bat because without the experience, it's not going to be that good. So the goal is do a couple short films, maybe 4 or 5 sometimes, until you're feeling very confident in your directing ability, and then just dive in. And in this business, it's better nowadays because you can be anywhere and do it. So Boston has a good film scene. Even Rhode Island has a pretty decent film scene. Any state or city that has tax incentives to make movies usually has a good film community. So when I went to school at CDIA in Waltham, Massachusetts, I was able to meet a lot of people that were very talented, way more talented than me, and I used them to make my movies. And I've been doing it ever since.
It's called human resources.
Exactly.
Well, that's important, right? Like,
Very. Yeah.
what for you, when you say that, I think a lot of people would say, like, oh, don't talk about yourself that way. Like, don't talk about yourself. Don't put yourself down. When you're saying that, what are you actually realizing? That you're
Well, I'm not a cinematographer, so I would hope that the person I hire to film my movie is going to be better at it than me. What I do need to be really good at is the storytelling, really. And also, being a director is very managerial, right? You know, you got to control the set, and half the time, maybe even more than half the time, it's not creative at all. It's, you know, making sure you make lunch on time. And but also keeping it creative, you know, when you're actually filming, because that's why everyone's there, right? Is to create a good movie. So, you know, that is something that I feel I'm really good at, and you know, and then like the creative side too, just the writing, the actual directing of actors and your crew, and then the editing afterwards. It's about just overseeing it all, and I think that's what makes a good director, when you can tackle all those things and then hire the people that are doing their specific job and know that they're better at it than you, which is what you want, because then you don't have to, you know, worry about what they're doing. And so when you get like one problem area, that can derail a whole movie, you know, whatever it is, it could be tiny, but it becomes a problem, and you have to take care of that problem. So
go ahead. Okay. We have a unique perspective, Alan and I. We've talked about this on a recent episode. We said literally shoot a video of yourself right now where you are in life, and just talk about where you are, what you're struggling with, and then look back on a year. And I guarantee it's going to give you a ton of perspective. So when you look back on the 4 or 5 short films that you made, how do you go back? Like, what is your intention and your goal when you're reflecting on your old work?
Yeah, just it is good to see how far you've come, for sure. It's also good to remind yourself that you're not wasting your time, because you know, there could be good things about it too. So that's always important too. Like, I like the work that I've done, but I know I'm getting better every single time. But, you know, hopefully if you're good at it, you'll see something there that is like, okay, yeah, like I'm clearly good at this, so I should keep going. So, you know, it feels good having a body of work that you're proud of, while also knowing that it's going to just get better.
Well, I often say The Rock still has the Scorpion King. No, but seriously, like, look at where he's gone, and he still has that out there, right? He's got to be embarrassed by that. He is. He still makes fun of it, but
I don't know. I mean, he probably makes fun of it, but he probably made $10 million off it.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I want to ask you is, and this is one of my favorite questions for anyone who's an expert in an industry, and obviously maybe there's experts that have more expertise than you. There are, okay? Obviously Steven Spielberg knows more about filmmaking than you do. Yeah. But for our listeners' sake, our listeners, I would argue all of them have at least seen a movie. Many of them probably love movies. One of my favorite questions, what is 1 or 2 things that people who watch movies just would not really know unless they've ever tried to make one? Like, what jumps off the page as something that's just so interesting, having made a movie, that you never realized until after you tried to make one?
Just how long everything takes. Yeah, I mean, you know, a short filming schedule is a month, and to make a 1.5 hour, 2 hour long movie. So, you know, you're basically, if you're on a good production, you'd want to be filming like 3 or 4 pages a day, which could just be one scene, you know. And when you're on an indie budget, sometimes you have to do like 8 pages a day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's, you know, very intricate scenes, then that's a lot of setup. That, you know, lighting is huge. You know, you're running electrical cables everywhere. You know, you got a truck in the back just full of gear, and people just setting things up, and it's very mind-boggling when you actually see it unfold, just how long everything takes to accomplish.
Well, I remember you shot Top Notch Live for us, and it's like when you guys showed up, you had like a whole mess of stuff, and I was like, oh, this is like legit. This is super legit.
Yeah, I mean, the audio, the camera, the lighting, and that's not even to mention the actors are waiting in their trailer somewhere, and then they're also going through hair and makeup, and it's just time-consuming. It just takes forever.
And then the costumes as well.
The wardrobe, yeah. Yep. And then the thing that actually is the shortest amount of time is just the filming. You know, you set everything up, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, let's film. and then that's like a minute, you know.
Right, literally.
I mean, it's longer, but you know, it depends on what the scene is. But sometimes you're setting up for hours for a shot that's going to last 2 seconds in the movie, you know.
And it might not even make it into
It
the
might not
movie.
even make it in. That's happens all the time.
My goodness.
Okay.
But that's why the prep work is so important, right? Because if you're like don't know what you're going to be cutting, I mean, you cut no matter what. You're always going to cut things out of your movie. It's always going to happen. But if you know going in exactly what you need, you can eliminate most of that kind of stuff.
Right.
That cutting in the editing room.
Because you're not just throwing stuff against the wall. You
And
have
seeing what
put
sticks,
the prep
right.
work in.
Yeah,
Exactly. Because
exactly.
otherwise you'll waste a lot of money and a lot of resources that could have gone into actual.
Into the other stuff that, you know, you rush through or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so much more than people realize, man. It's like
crazy, yeah.
a lot of people. So we coach a lot of early podcasters, and they figure like, oh, we'll start a podcast. It's so much more, and this is what I've come to realize: professional anything is like really intense and really challenging.
That's why they're professionals.
Yeah, literally.
You know, it's like otherwise anyone would do it. Yeah, no, it's so true. What is it, like the 10,000 hours before you can consider yourself professional?
Right.
Yep.
Well, we're coming up on that.
Yeah, we're getting there.
For sure.
When you just finished your feature film just dropped.
Mhm.
What the day you wake up, and as you said, it dropped last Tuesday. You wake up and it's out there now.
Yeah.
What changed inside Ryan Bliss? Did anything change, or is it just like, well, on to the next
There
one?
was a sudden emptiness. Felt hollow all of a sudden.
Just
No,
started fading away.
yeah, I just disappeared. Like, yeah. No, it was a weird day to describe. You know, people were calling me and texting me, and you know, I got so many screenshots of people that bought the movie, like throwing it on. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like family and friends and all that kind of stuff. And you know, I knew like there wasn't going to be like anything huge the day of, but just knowing that people were watching it was really exciting. And my producer called me that night, and you know, he watched it and he just wanted to congratulate me because he's like, it's great, it's a great movie, you should be proud. No matter what anyone says, it's great. And then, you know, that's it.
It's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way? Like, were you seem to me, and I don't know you as well as Alan, but you seem like the type of person who's like, all right, that's done, and now it's like on to the next one. Like, was there any sense of like, hell yeah, I did that?
Well, I've been mentally on to the next one for a long time, and you know, we sold the movie last year, so it's kind of been out of my hands this entire time. Like, I approve everything.
You did sell the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
A
For the
a
listeners.
distributor picks it up and
Okay.
they release it. So it was a good company. It's a company called 1091. And,
Oh, that's right. I saw that on the opening credits. It's
yeah.
called Alice Fades Away, by the way.
Oh yeah, good.
It was really cool because, and not to interrupt you, but we grew up as kids together, and we made home movies where I was apparently getting thrown onto the hood of a car as Bigfoot, and then I text
By
Ryan.
Bigfoot.
By Bigfoot, sorry. And I text Ryan and I say, "Hey man, where do I find your movie?" And he literally texts me back, "Anywhere movies are sold." You know, and it was just like weird for me because like we were little kids, and it's just like, I don't want to derail Kevin's question, but I have to ask this before I forget. William Sadler was in Shawshank Redemption, which is arguably one of the most famous movies in history. What was it like to meet one of your heroes?
Oh my god, the most nervous I've ever been was calling him for the first time. And we were talking. I was talking to his manager, and she gave me his number, and she's like, "All right, give him a call." So I was like, "Okay." So I'm pumping myself up. You know, I'm gonna call him. And then of course I call, and like a lady picks up, and I'm like, "Oh, Mr. Sadler." It's like, no, this is his house number. Why are you calling his house number? I'm like, oh no. So anyway, I got his cell number, and I was like talking to my producer. I'm like, what should I call him? Like, you know, William or Mr. Sadler? He's like, call him Mr. Sadler and see what he says from there. You know, he'll correct you on what to. So when he finally picked up, I said, Mr. Sadler, it's good to meet you. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, Mr. Sadler it is. But yeah, just talking to him about the movie was really fun. And great guy. It was super cool. But yeah, I'm a big fan. And actually, the way we got him is I wrote him a letter because I'm a big fan of a movie that he did in the early 90s before Shawshank that had Bill Paxton and Ice Cube in it. and it's called Trespass. And I wrote him a letter. It's not a very popular movie, so I wrote him a letter. Said I love Trespass. I saw it when I was a kid, and I watched it all the time. And he read that, and I guess was very moved by it. So that helped. And then when you talk to him, he's just like a regular guy.
Handwritten letter or email?
I don't remember actually. It would probably email. Yeah,
That's
probably,
smart.
probably
Okay.
an email.
Yeah.
So then just I get to talk to him every night. He was on for not a long time. It was only 2 days, but
I get to talk to him every night. You mean during filming?
no, well, I mean, I talked to him during filming, obviously, but just talked to him as a person every night.
Yeah.
Because I would take him out to dinner after filming.
Right.
So we went to dinner like 3 times because it was when he first got there. Then we filmed the 2 days,
Yep.
and every night after filming, we go out for dinner.
It's awesome.
So you just hear stories, and it's great. Shawshank and Green Mile and Iron Man 3. He's in a ton of stuff, so it was really cool.
It's awesome, man.
That's so interesting.
Right.
It's so interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I was totally like fanboying too. I was like, the director of Trespass, his name is Walter Hill, and I'm like, so like Walter Hill, like what's he like?
What's he like? I'm sure he doesn't get that question often.
He's like, what do you want to know? Like just anything?
Anything.
What does he smell like? No.
That's what I was actually going to say when you said it, so it makes sense. What's if you could go back and tell yourself, like one of the goals for us is to try to highlight the problems that we've made, right? And maybe it's not specific to directing or the industry, but like what advice would you give yourself that the 10-year older or before, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
What advice would you give him?
Oh boy. I mean, 10 years ago, I was like just starting, so I don't know. Take your time. Don't rush. I mean, for all I know, I rushed to make a feature film, so I'm kind of like it's too early to say really because I'm so fresh into the movie coming out that I don't know.
What didn't you understand that you do now?
Yeah.
Everything. No.
Yeah, I don't know. You're never going to be an overnight success because that doesn't exist, right?
Right.
As badly as you want it. So it's not. I think almost every project I've done, I've maybe been a little too ambitious with each one, and I think I would say just step back and take it one step at a time, and don't overdo it. Because if you overdo it, then things go wrong.
What do you mean when you say too ambitious? Like, what's an example?
Well, I mean, the first movie, Rot, it was for a short film. It was like 20 pages, which is a long short film, and we did like makeup, heavy, extensive.
The makeup was good.
Yeah, it came out really great, which I'm very happy with. But that's also very time consuming. And we shot in the dead of winter, and I had a full crew, and it was just. I was probably just not ready to do it yet. I should have started with like a music video with like 5 people instead of doing something with 25 people, And then, and then Clover is kind of like an action movie, right? So, it's got shootouts and it's a period piece and that kind of stuff is expensive, very expensive. You need gun people, like safety people on set and all of those kind of things. And, again, I'm very happy with how it came out, but if I kept it a little smaller, who knows, And then with Alice, it was a feature film, period piece, ensemble cast, and we filmed down in the middle of nowhere.
What does ensemble cast mean?
Meaning that there's like multiple principal characters, right?
Right.
So like 5 or more. I don't know like what the specific for to be considered an ensemble, but like. It's not one character who's driving the story. It's multiple characters. You got William Sadler, you got Alice, you got the main villain, you got the uncle, you got the kid. There's just a lot of characters in the movie, which means a lot of actors, which means a lot of scheduling conflicts, which means a lot of hotel rooms, which means because we filmed down in the middle of nowhere, which so even the crew had to be put up, and in addition to the actors who you're flying in from New York, L.A., Nashville, Kansas, and so that's plane tickets, so it's just a lot. And then there's no cell service out there. And, when you're, say like we filmed in Boston, okay, well, now the entire crew can go home at the end of the day. How much money is that going to save you? You know? So like things like that, I would probably like, do you really want to make a period piece set out in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, right.
Do you really want to do that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and the costumes too, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
'Cause, like,
absolutely.
the movie takes place in 1952.
Yep.
And it was really, I thought the costumes were phenomenal.
No, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw one gun in the movie that Emilia turned to me and was like, "Is that a 1952? You know the tree scene? So
Yeah.
spoiler alert. So that gun, that was
That's a 1912 pistol.
wow. Okay.
I believe 1912 or 1918. But yeah, that design you're saying, because it was one of the
It
more
looks
modern.
more modern. Yeah.
Well, that design came out in the early 1900s, and they just haven't changed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool.
Very interesting. It's interesting for me because I remember when we were sitting down last time, it was like, I've never met you, but you're super funny, and I just really enjoy chatting about this because it's a little bit different for us.
Right.
It's not like super, super personal development, but everything carries over.
Mm-hmm.
Everything carries over.
Yeah.
So I can look back from Alan and I's journey, and there have been like some very rock bottom-ish moments of like, oh God, I don't know if I can come back from this. Have you, I won't say have you had any. How many of those have you had? And are there any that specifically stand out as like the fork in the road of like, you know what, either I'm going to go through this or this isn't the path I want to take?
When I had those moments, I was already too deep into it to give up. But, like the first day of filming, you don't know what's going to happen. And so when things start going wrong, you're like, oh, God, should I pull the plug? You know, but you can't. And there's no way you're going to. But I wouldn't say it's rock bottom, but it was just like, especially because we had to get people out there, and so everyone's kind of showing up at their own time, and you're just trying to organize everything, and people are like, where the hell am I going? And you're like, oh, no. So, like that first night of filming, when I went to bed that night, I was like, this is not good.
What have I done?
Yeah. And luckily, like, I think it was probably the third day, we were like, okay, this is cool. You finally film a scene that you're super proud of, and you're like, okay, no matter what, that scene was cool. Like that will work. And then you're just off and running. But like,
who do you talk to? Like, if you're overwhelmed and things are burning down, like, are you the last wall, or do you have somebody you can?
Producers and your AD is going to be your best friend on a set, which is assistant director.
Oh, got it.
He's basically, that was another really cool thing actually, because when I had done short films, it was always just, I had to deal with everything, food and all that kind of stuff, and money and la-da-da. But when you have a production team, they shield you from that kind of stuff. So I never had to hear about, for the most part, sometimes I would have to get pulled into it, but I never had to hear about like the smaller complaints or the little bit of details that they could just take care of. And there were times when people would come up to me like, what time are we filming to? And like my AD or producer, whoever would come running over, like, you don't ask him that. You talk to me about that. And I was like, this is great. And then I could just focus on the film, right? On the creative side of it, and as much as I could. But yeah, that was great. That was eye-opening.
What are you most proud of about the film?
I don't know if there's anything I'm most proud of. I'm proud of a lot of different things about it. I love the look of it. I love the wardrobe. I love the locations. I love a lot of, I love the cast in it. The fact that William Sadler agreed to do it is, I think, a big deal. It was certainly a big deal for me. And the music, I really love the music in it. So, yeah, there's nothing like, there's no one thing above everything else. It's just certain pieces of it that I will always be very proud of.
So I had kind of, in the preamble, we talked about this a little bit, but for our listeners, I hopefully Ryan's, dream chasing is serving as a really great metaphor for what it takes. A lot of our listeners are used to us talking about how you can't want a goal without what's required of you to achieve it. What have you had to go through personally, financially, that you didn't anticipate that really was super challenging? That, I guess, what's been required of you to achieve these goals that, maybe you didn't realize or were just really challenging?
it's everything, right? It's all encompassing. I'm sure it is for you guys as well. You know, it's you got to put everything into it, and then hope that everyone else just gets on board. You know, and you can pull in crew and cast just by seeing your passion. Everyone says that, you know, people are more inclined to jump on a moving train, right?
For sure.
So if you're going around hat in hand asking people to, like, that probably won't work. You got to be, this is happening.
Right.
Start it, and then hope, you know, more people will join.
For sure.
And that's what we did actually, because we filmed the first part of the movie in February, and at that time it was just me and my buddies were the crew, and we got some cast members that. So then we did the flashbacks, all the winter stuff, and then we built from there the cast and crew continuously until we got to the filming in July, and then at that time, then I had a real producer that came on board. You know, I probably couldn't have got him if I didn't do those scenes.
Right.
So there was that kind of thing, and then when we finished in July, well, now I had a lot of footage to show, so then that attracted William Sadler. You know, he could look at it and be like, okay, this isn't a student film. This isn't a shit project. This actually has potential.
Right.
And so it was incremental steps like that. Also, I mean, you just don't realize how much money is going to go into it until you're doing it.
Oh, yeah. yeah. Sounds like entrepreneurship. Sounds a lot
Yeah.
like entrepreneurship. My Aunt Joanne, when she was coaching me, she said, Alan, you're not going to make money for the first 2 or 3 years. I was like, what are you talking about? I had $150,000 in the bank. I was like,
Yeah.
good to go. I'm like, of course I am. We had a profitable year last year in 2020.
we did.
First profitable
year.
year, which is a big deal. But people don't realize
very big
how
deal.
much it costs to make a movie or to start a podcast.
Well, like I was saying, I thought like it was going to be like, because a lot of like those farmhouses are in my family. Some of the cars are in my family. Well, actually, all the cars are in the family that we
Some of your
filmed.
family's in the movie.
Some of my family's in the movie. I'm like, so we got everything. It's fine. Like,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, literally.
But no,
Good
it
to go.
doesn't work like that.
We got a gun from 2015 that we
Yeah.
can use in the period piece. I'm kidding. I'm literally
Yeah,
joking. Yeah. I can joke with him a little different. No, I'm joking.
There's a lot of like, because then anything that's modern, you got to digitally take out of the movie, and that's a pain. But then also wardrobe, you know. If I made a movie that was present day, I probably wouldn't have to hire a wardrobe person, right? You just say, bring your clothes, bring like 10 shirts, and we'll pick one that you're going to wear in the movie. Well, that doesn't work on a period piece.
Right.
Also, hair and makeup.
Right.
There's a lot of, again, ensemble. There's a lot of characters in that movie. That's a lot of, and with women, it's a lot of hair and makeup.
I know.
So things like that. And then that's time, you know, that's an hour of prep work. And then when you only have one makeup artist, again, with an ensemble, they can only do one person at a time. So that's 3 hours of makeup before we can film. And then, you know, so it's just, and that's people waiting around. So it just adds up.
How does the pay work? Is it like you pay somebody for the actors or the people on set? They get paid for the entire project, or is it hourly, daily? How does that work? I've always wanted to ask somebody that. I feel like we made it.
Well, the actors get
We have.
paid by the project.
So the size of the project and time?
Yeah, well, so it's different for each. It's kind of depends on what deal you work out. But I think most actors who are just day-to-day working actors, they get a daily rate. And that's whatever the SAG minimum is, which I believe is like $125. But they can also negotiate higher than that, you know, if they don't want to do it for $125 a day, which most do. So, you know, it's just the negotiation there. And then the bigger actors, they're going to have their set prices that, you know, you can negotiate, but it's going to be around whatever. But yeah, everyone's different, you know. A lot of people worked on the movie for free, you know, just friends. And then others get a paycheck at the end of the week, you know, through a payroll company or something.
Well, it's so important. I think, you know, we've had a lot of people that have helped us for free.
You're one of them.
Yep.
You know, you're one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we paid you after Top Notch 5. Which
You
is
did?
yeah.
Must be lost. Must have got lost in the mail
Must have got
somewhere.
lost, yeah. No, I know. I paid you.
Yeah.
You're damn right I did.
No,
Trust me,
I
there's
gave it to my buddy. 'cause
Oh,
that
that's
was,
right.
Yeah, that was how I got him on it.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, by
yeah.
the way. Appreciate
Well,
it.
it's so important. It's so important
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
think a lot of people.
On the list of the people I have to pay, you're checked off. Not everyone else is. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think it's important because people think they see, again, we always say this, like if you guys are watching this, obviously you can see my hand, but they don't see what's behind the camera. They only see what's presented. They don't know Alan and I's financial situation or whatever. So I think that, how do you get people on board, like your vision? Like, how does that happen? Do you go out and proactively say, all right, I have this feature film I'm doing. This is my vision. It could be this thing. Or do you think it's just because is it because they're interested in the details?
Are you saying to get money or to get people attached to it?
Both.
Well, no one really put in money. It was a self-funded project,
okay.
so that was that. And then with the film, yeah, I mean, people read the script, they like it for the actors, you know, and then for the crew, because it's Boston, it's a small film community. I knew most of them, so you have a working relationship there, because you know we all work on projects for Mass General Hospital, Harvard, and any place in Boston really is like it's going to be the same kind of crews that. So you just get to know everyone, and who doesn't want to work on a creative project? You know, it's sometimes you're working on these corporate videos or something, and it pays the bills, but it's not the most creatively fulfilling job you can have.
Yeah,
so
for sure,
if you're gonna get a cinematographer to come in and shoot a feature film and say like get creative and go to town and let's make it a beautiful project, then that's going to be exciting for most people. And
plus that goes into their body of work, which they can showcase. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
What part fulfills you the most? Is it the day-to-day? Is it looking back? Like, what are you most excited for?
Writing and editing. Yeah. Because when you're on set, it's not even a movie, it's a job. You're just making your days. And when you're writing, that's when it's like writing a book or writing a screenplay. I think it's kind of the same thing. I've never wrote a book, but you're just letting your imagination run wild, and at that point it's only as good as what you can come up with. You don't even think about money. And then when the movie's shot and you have everything, then when you start editing, then it becomes a whole other thing, and you kind of find the movie in the edit. They say you make a movie 3 times: writing it, on the day, and then in the editing room. And that's true. And when you're when you're able to sit down with an editor and start piecing the movie together, you're like, okay, I like that, let's move that over there, and get really creative like that, find the best takes, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, yeah, look, this is starting to feel like a movie. And then the score, you get the composer to come in, and then you work with him, and he's putting his own music over it, and then you go, oh yeah, this is really cool, And then at the end, then you just hope that you like what it came out to be. But
right.
The individual steps can be really fun. The sound mix, the first time you get the sound mix back and see what they've done to it, that's really cool too. And again, it's like as it's only going to be as good as the people that you get to do it. So you want to get really good people to do it, and then a lot of the time you don't even have to tweak anything, because it's just like you had the instincts, and with like my guidance, like I'll tell you what I want, and then they'll do it, and sometimes add to it, bring it in a different direction that is even better. So you run into a lot of that kind of stuff. So yeah, writing and editing.
So many of our listeners struggle with constructive criticism. I know Kevin and I, early in our journey, we're like, wait, what? You're going to start a podcast? Like, you're a podcaster now? Like, that kind of thing. How have you overcome that? Because, dude, honestly, as kids, there were certain people that would make fun of you when you said, I'm going to be a feature film director one day.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't believe I ever was one of those. I don't think I ever.
No,
I feel like you and
so.
I always talked about it. And one of the reasons I love movies so much is that we used to talk about it all the time and talk about movies in general. And you showed me so many movies. But I remember people making fun of you, for sure. And making fun of
they
like
were?
your yeah, exactly. Making fun of your dream about that. And I think that is what it is when you have something that appears far-fetched to other people. And it is statistically far-fetched, I guess. How have you overcome constructive feedback, and how have you differentiated? 2 questions. How have you differentiated between criticism and feedback that's constructive? And then how especially have you really said, screw you to the naysayers, so to speak, in terms of just doing it anyway?
Well, I haven't really met too many naysayers that say it to my face. So that is kind of like the big thing. Like anyone could trash talk someone behind their back and you just go, whatever. You know, it's not my problem. Like I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Right.
But constructive criticism, I think, is very important. You know, it's a big difference when it's your friend telling you and just being honest and not trying to knock you down. Like you can tell, you can tell when it's the difference between the two. So, yeah. It's good to get constructive criticism in the early stages before you've made the movie, because then if you're getting it after, like this movie is unreleasable, like I never got that with this movie, obviously, but then it's just like, well, why are you even telling me? Like, you just, it's all about like what to listen to and what not to, really.
How do you know?
Good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially who? Because I could say like, Ryan, I understand what you're going for, but like 101 Dalmatians is the best film ever made. Like you're just it's not gonna win with me, right?
Well, even The Godfather has people that don't like it, right? So not everything is going to be for everyone. And I like the people I've surrounded myself with, we have similar tastes, So I know I can go to certain people, and especially if we're working on a movie and they know what the movie is. They've agreed to it, they like it. So, that's when, like, if you have differences of opinion on the day, well, that's great, because then you can talk about it and work it out. And a lot of the time, someone could be right, as long as everyone has the same outcome in mind, because they've agreed to the project, they read the script, they know what it's supposed to be. So if all of a sudden, someone wants to add something into the movie that's like, going to just be for their reel, and not for the movie, then, like for their resume, then that's not going to work, So, yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Like, it's just like a feeling, right? Like knowing when it's constructive and when it's not. And then it's just weeding out I don't want to surround myself with people that are negative Nancy's,
right.
Only going to give just negative feedback. That's not, and it's like, okay, well, we're obviously on two different wavelengths here. So
can you go too far the other way though? Right. Like having yes men and women around you of like, it's always, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think on a film set, it's harder though, because everyone's doing it as a job. So they don't want to look stupid or do stupid work. So I think very rarely, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like you run into in the production team and with the actors. Obviously, I don't need like the coffee runner telling me that this shot's not working. So it's it depends on who it is. It's the people. It's like my producer, my AD, my cinematographer. Like those are the people I want to be getting feedback from. If the makeup artist doesn't like the style that we decided upon, then she should tell me that, and then we can work it out. So it's more just like kind of.
Do you create that atmosphere of like wanting feedback?
I hope so.
And encouraging them.
Sometimes too much, because I'm a first-time filmmaker, so a lot of the time people will have no problem telling you like what they think I'm doing wrong, and that's just because you're just new at it. And it's very easy to do that with a first-time filmmaker as opposed to David Fincher. No one's going to tell him, that he's doing something wrong. And I don't think there's ill intention to it, but, you just, you go, okay, that's great, and either you listen or you don't, it just depends on what it is that
and it's
saying.
time sensitive too, so it's like we can't make that change right now. We got to go with this. And then at one point you had reached out to me, or I had reached out to you, I forget when, and I had asked you how the movie's going, and you said at this point in the editing stage I hired a Hollywood editor because I feel like at this point I might be messing up the movie or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Can you take us through why you felt you were too close to the project and what maybe our listeners can learn from that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. When you're so close to something, it's good to step away and get like a professional pair of eyes on it that can be just tell you what it's missing. And at the end of the day, it's an entertainment piece of media, right? So if you're just treating it as like your art project, then it might not be that great for people to watch. So there are rules to movies and music and all that kind of stuff that it's the reason why artists don't produce their own music. You know, you need that outside voice to be like, this is what's working, this is what's not working. And they have the experience and the expertise to back it up. But they also have to be like-minded too, and understand what you're trying to go for. So when I brought this guy on, he just got the movie, you know, and he came up with an idea to make it flow better than it was when I was doing it, and he did it, you know.
You do believe it flows better than it did?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So he improved the movie. You're happy with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, he's great. I'd love to use him again.
What for the listeners? What I think Kevin and I have started to realize is the difference between a business person and an artist, and how we all have both, but we all have a leaning one way or the other. I think your leaning is probably artist, but a director needs to be a good business person as well. And I think it's important to kind of integrate those two. I know Kevin and I, you know, he would be leaning on the artist side, and I'd be leaning on the business side probably, and that's why we're such a great team. And we call it Drive to Five. So him and I, we never fully disagree with anything, but we almost never fully agree with everything. I hear his perspective, he hears mine, and then the answer in the middle is almost always better than both of our answers were.
Yeah. Difference of opinion doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong, right? It's just difference of opinion, and there could be right and wrong to both of those opinions. So, yeah, no, that's true. I do think that I probably lean more towards the artist, and I'm trying to lean more towards the business person.
Right.
You know, luckily I work in Boston, and I make good enough money that I can fund these projects on my own. But I also know that I can't do that forever. So, you know, it was like I was saying before, it was like trying to buy my way into the industry. Now that I've made a film, then, you know, hopefully on the next one I don't have to put all my money into it.
Right.
So that's the goal. Yeah, I mean, it's a good first step anyway.
What advice do you give? So we're in the digital age now where a lot of people can make a living with their cell phones. And I know a lot of people are afraid to put their work out there, whether it's music, whether it's a podcast, a video, speaking. What advice would you give to somebody early on in their journey when it comes to releasing their content, whatever that is, and just kind of letting go of the opinions of others at the beginning?
I'm still figuring it out. You know, it's like when someone doesn't like your movie, it hurts for sure. But you also know it's not going to please everyone, so you just let it hurt for an hour, and then you move on with your life.
For an hour, wow.
No, for a day.
Yeah.
Week. Depends on how bad the review is. No, it's it's just you're never gonna do anything if you don't put your work out there, right? If you have a dream to be a musician, but you won't play in front of anyone, then you're not gonna be a musician. So, or a paid musician. So. You just got to overcome it. You know, they just jump into it. It's going to suck at first, but with each project, you'll get better. And soon enough, and even maybe right away, you know, like even if some people don't like this movie, that will hurt, but then some people will really like it. And then that will compensate for that, right? You know, you'll be bummed for an hour until you read the positive review. And then you'll be like, yeah, I'm pretty good actually, you know? And so that's but then at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter, you know, it's just, you know, obviously you need people to like your stuff to survive. Otherwise, if no one likes it, you're not making any money. But just knowing you're not going to please everyone, so just put it out there and take that criticism. And if you agree, you know, it's going to hurt more if you agree with it. That's what I've noticed, right? So if you're hurt because you agree with the criticism, then now you know what to do differently the next time around. Right. And then if it's something like you've never even thought of, you're like, well, that person doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, you know. Right. So that's. Yeah.
One of the things that I try to look at, and I try to encourage our client, we have a lot of clients now, business, podcasting, personal development, and I talk about trajectory matters more than current results. And so when I watched your film, I was really looking from the lens of obviously kind of a little bit of a fanboy just because we're friends, we grew up together, and I got to see your manifested dream that we talked about when we were like 9. You know, which is just really cool. Yeah. And I got to buy it on YouTube. And I was like, I bought the movie, and I was like, I
bought it on YouTube, huh?
Yeah, I did. I literally did. Your ticker will go up.
Good.
When you do your weekly progress report. So, but it was just cool because it was like I remember talking about this when we were like little kids, and I just bought Ryan Bliss's movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, but that's great. You know, I see all like the problems that arose around it. You know, like. COVID happened, so now we can't do like a festival run. We can't do theaters really. Like
Right.
theaters are just opening up now, and we sold the movie, in July or August of last year. So that really kind of screwed everything up. So, it's hard. Yeah, it's good to be positive and look at like, if I got my movie out there, I did. But you also look at like what could have been, And so it was just a weird time with this whole thing going on. So, and it's through no fault of anyone. It's just what it fell on, So it's just.
I love that you don't blame anyone else. It just is what it is,
Yeah.
I look at your trajectory, though. When I watched the film, part of it was fanboy. The other part was looking at your improvement. Kevin and I watched Winter Harvest. We watched Rot, and we watched Clover.
I didn't get to see this because Alan texted me yesterday. He's like, here, it's like 9 o'clock, Alan. Dead.
Yeah, literally.
Come on,
it's
man.
9 o'clock. I'm buying it.
I will watch it, though, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was very, very suspenseful,
Good.
and it kept me engaged the whole time.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was cool to hear kind of your stuff behind the scenes of what you wanted to portray. But I look at your trajectory, and I'm looking at how much they've improved.
Yeah.
From Winter Harvest to Rot to Clover to this feature film,
Yeah.
there's massive improvements each time.
It's night and day.
So it's night and day. So talk to our listeners about that lens, because if you look at the improvement, you mentioned overnight success, right? We're 460 episodes in, 560, I'm sorry, 560.
You missed 100.
And we're getting better every single rep, every single time. You're getting better every movie. What's your thought process around all that?
It's true. I mean, even now, sitting with you guys doing an interview, like 2 weeks ago, I would not want to do this at all. But now I've been doing it for the press for the movie, and now I'm more comfortable doing an interview. So it's just, just doing more, and with more, you're going to get better. I agree that every project has been better than the last one, but I definitely think that the next one's going to be better than this one. So, it's important to always want to do better and know that you can do better. That's super important. This, like you were saying, this one is definitely, it's an artful movie, and I was probably still getting that out of my system, that kind of like the artistic kind of side of things, even though it is a horror thriller kind of suspense movie as well, but there are some artistic flourishes to it that on the next one, like that, I'm going to go like, not like, I'm not going like Spider-Man mainstream. I like, Bad Boys 2. I'm like,
Yeah, right. I knew that would come out.
but I do want to like bring in like a big audience, and this movie is more of like a niche, for film lovers and kind of that type. But the next one, I was gonna be like, anyone could watch it and get like a jolt of energy by it, because it's gonna be just hard hitting, like fun, kind of movie. But not selling myself out either, because I need to love it. That's the most important thing.
Right.
But
You're not gonna make Jurassic World,
Nah.
Jurassic World 9.
Yeah, exactly.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Number 1, what is your favorite movie and why? I don't know if I asked you that last time.
That's so hard. Well, because I want to name like 5 movies, but my favorite movie,
Troy.
Troy.
No, I'm kidding. You always make fun of me for that.
It's a good movie.
Thought so.
Right now, I'm gonna go with Heat. Al Pacino,
Okay.
Robert De Niro, Michael Mann directed. Fantastic, fantastic crime thriller. And I'm only saying that now because my next one is going to be more like that. Whereas with Alice, it was probably a more artistic movie, like The Assassination of Jesse James, which is also Brad Pitt, but way more like art house type film. And I was looking at that pretty extensively when I was writing Alice. So that kind of influenced the making of that movie. But now, like, I'm like, the next one's going to be like crime thriller, hard hit, like just gritty. And so Heat, So.
All right, question number 2. What does Ryan Bliss have to do to get to the next level of directing, of the industry? Like, if you're giving yourself advice, what do you have to do to get to the next level?
Go bigger. Go bigger, but stay within. I think Alice walked that edge just like on the razor of like too big for the money that we had to make it. That's why you don't see many indie period piece movies, right? So the next time I don't want to make a period piece movie. I want to make it modern. I want to have one main character with other characters around there, but not like never like 10 characters in a scene, and I want more money, So I think it's going to be how do you find money, really? You know, where do you get funding? You know, I know that there's so many different ways to go about doing it. So, you know, business owners, you know, investing, like, you know, a lot of people like when they're filming in their city, and so you hit up a lot of business people around there and say like, hey, do you want to come down, like throw some money in? You can come on set and meet this celebrity that we're gonna have, because the next one I'm definitely having a bigger cast, you know, more name actors.
Do you have anyone in mind?
Yeah, but you know,
Are we allowed to say it?
no, because it's not even close to reality. So.
Yeah. Well, we're having Natalie Portman on the podcast at some point, so, and that's not a reality yet. And we've reached out to her people.
Have we?
And we've not gotten anything.
Yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And we've also reached out to, who's the other big name actor?
Matthew McConaughey. Everybody. All of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and then all of a sudden one will do it, and then that'll be the switch, right?
Right.
You know, so, and then all of a sudden everyone will do it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that Joe Rogan did the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You know, and I knew that with Alice too. That's why we got William Sadler. So now I'm like legit in the eyes of people in the film industry. So on the next one, I can show this movie and be like, so and so, you know, William Sadler was in it. We had these people here, and you know, it looks great, and you know, hopefully you like it. And let's do it again, just this time with more money and a bigger cast and
Bigger
payoff, and you know, just if they like the script, that's really the most important part, right? Like, no actor is going to sign on to a movie if they don't like the part that they're going to play. So it's got to be good for people. You know, like Matthew McConaughey is going to do a movie if he reads it and loves it, but it's not paying that well. He'll still do it because he knows it could be good for his career in that way, right?
Right.
It gives you
the reconnaissance.
Yeah. Well, he said that when he did that was the first year since he started acting that he lost money.
I know.
Was when he made like Dallas
turned-
Buyers Club.
Yeah.
And
He turned down a
Such a good
$14 million contract for another rom-com. Turned it down. Was thinking about being a teacher. Crazy.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
sometimes that's what you got to do. You know,
Dallas Buyers Club was so
take a
good.
step back
Yeah,
to
it
go
was.
forward.
So good.
You know, and I don't know if it's taking a step back. I mean, financially speaking, he took a step back, but it helped him so tremendously in the long run.
For sure. Interstellar. Unreal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
True Detective, and so that you find either an up and coming actor who is looking to like do like a cool project, or you get a more seasoned person, hopefully both, and you just write good roles for them, and they'll come. You know, they'll join your movie for sure.
Hell yeah.
It will happen.
Hell yeah. I love that you're so all in on this, man.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe in you, and it's been awesome to watch your journey. Last and final question. We were in the elevator, and you asked me for my feedback, and I gave it to you. And you talked about how the movie you wrote in 2016, and it didn't come out until this past Tuesday. And you're like, it's interesting because that's not reflective of my current abilities. Can you talk to our listeners? We talk a lot about how your habits have to be on point long before results come, and we talk about how basically there is no overnight success. Can you talk to our listeners about what it's like to have a piece of your work come out where you've actually gotten better for 4 years since that moment?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's just weird, right? It's hard to describe. I mean, because there are some things that I think I was really good when I did the movie. You know, like I think I'm really good with tone and atmosphere and like just building dread.
Right,
but
building suspense for sure.
Building suspense, but I think my like dialogue writing has come miles. You know, it's just light years above, and I kind of knew that making the movie, so I made it very sparse with the dialogue. But you know, now I can write dialogue scenes and feel super confident about it. Back then, I couldn't. So you know, it's just things like that, and then of course the reviews that come out and are critical of the dialogue. You're like, I know.
Right.
I know, but
yeah,
you know.
yeah, literally. William
wait till you
Sadler's
see the next
monologue
one.
was good. I liked that.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
I wrote that one like a year after that initial. So like what I was saying before, like we filmed in July of 2017, and then his stuff in September of 2018. So I already had the movie like not done, but like edited together, and I knew I'm like, okay, insert William Sadler scene here, and so I knew I could take what was there already and then write something that would fit. You know, for him using what's already there. And so that like his end scene on the phone, like I
Yeah.
wrote that like in 2018. You know, it's like just knowing what I had already in the can, and now how can we wrap it all up in a bow? You know, so it was. Yeah, it's better because I was a better writer when I wrote it.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Before we go, can you speak quickly on perfectionism? I feel like in your industry, you kind of can't have it because you'll never release your work. Like, what would you say to somebody who's struggling with that?
Great question.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are perfectionists for sure. It's good to surround yourself with some. So I would say my cinematographer is a perfectionist, but I'm not a perfectionist. You know, I like the spontaneous stuff happening, and it doesn't have to be technically perfect, but as long as the feeling's right, then I'll like it, you know. But he needs every frame to be perfect, and I think it shows in the movie. It's a gorgeous movie.
It is.
So I like that.
And the set's beautiful. As
Yeah,
well. Like
I like that he is a perfectionist and I'm spontaneous, because hopefully you can get interesting stuff there. That, you know, just wild ideas that look beautiful. You know, he can capture them properly.
Right.
But I'm way more willing to just be like, okay, now, like, you know, they kept calling it the JFK shot, because you're supposed to storyboard everything out, and so it's a shot list, and it's like, okay, now we're on shot 6, 7, 8. But I'm known for throwing extra shots in there, so
Yeah.
shots that come out of nowhere.
Right.
The JFK shot.
yeah, I got it. The magic bullet, the magic shot. What's one from the film? One that was a magic shot. A magic bullet or JFK shot.
That's a good. The William Sadler scene where he walks to the door frame and he's like lights up the cigarette.
Yeah,
and
that was
then-
just
and
out of
then-
nowhere.
and then looks at the camera.
Yeah. That was just put in last minute.
That was the day of.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Yeah.
Very cool. I like how you can see the in
rolling
mansion.
hills all the way
It's
down.
gorgeous.
Giving it away. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't
Spoiler
seen it yet.
alert. Spoiler alert.
Where can people find it? I know you said where all movies are available, but
Yeah, right.
is there a preference on where they
YouTube.
should go?
I think Apple helps me the best. But you can rent it on Apple. Amazon.
Snail mail.
Yeah, I'll send you a VHS tape. Yeah, so Apple, Amazon, Fandango, Vudu, YouTube, Google Play. I think that's all of them. But there might be there's some smaller ones out there. There's so many. Microsoft, I think, has one.
It was
So-
$5 to rent, 10 to buy. I was like, screw it, I'm buying this thing.
Good.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Support the mission.
Should have done it on Apple, apparently. No.
YouTube.
How dare you buy my movie?
No, it's good.
That's hilarious.
As long as it's not being, like just a bootleg of it
Pirated.
on YouTube.
Yeah,
then-
I only have 2 movies on YouTube. Bad Boys 2. No.
Yeah.
And Ryan,
No, it's
and
Bad
Alice.
Boys 3.
Yeah, and Alice fades away.
Bad
That's
Boys for
funny.
life.
Yeah, right, literally.
Well, we appreciate you coming, brother.
Cool.
Dude, this
Thanks
is
for
always
having us.
this is always super fun. We're gonna have to do this like yearly, and
Literally.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because you have actual work to look at, and so don't we. In terms of saying like, wow, you've come a long way.
Yeah.
Like maybe Alan thinks you've come further than you think you have. So it's very interesting. So we appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, no problem at all. I think you guys have done great too.
Oh,
I mean, this
appreciate
is
that,
a
man.
great set.
Thank
Beautiful. Everything's awesome.
Thank you, man. We've come
we're
a long
killing
way.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing something.
But I know you guys think that you have a long ways to go too.
For
so
sure.
it's,
For sure.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just the way it is.
Almost the
Yeah.
whole way.
I know. Like my girlfriend was telling me the other day, like just like you've done so much. Just be happy. I'm like, yeah.
yeah, no.
No.
Yeah, that's
More.
Yeah, right. Literally. It's just that's what this kind of carving your own unique path in your dreams. You'll almost always feel behind until you look back and go, "Wow, I have accomplished so much." So it's just a perspective. You know, it's
Well,
all
yeah,
relative.
really quickly, and then I know we got to go. But yeah, when I was making Alice, I was looking at like masterpieces. There will be blood,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So if the
Academy
movie-
Award winners.
Yeah. So if the movie doesn't hit that level, that it's a failure, which is the craziest thing you could ever do, because that's a $60 million movie with
I know.
the best actor and director of all time, and I'm just like, you know.
literally. I do have one last question. If we can.
Yeah,
If we can
yeah.
hammer
No,
it real
we're
quick.
good. We're
Okay.
good.
The camera's not going to shut off because we've changed.
Well,
that,
it might.
thank
It
God.
might catch on fire.
Yeah.
But I can't promise.
Sometimes
it
it does just kick.
Yeah, things are happening.
So I was watching Lord of the Rings not long ago, okay, and the extended one. Love movies, And when you and I get dinner, and we've been getting dinner like yearly, you know, sometimes more than that for the last few years, and we've known each other our entire life basically. And you've really illuminated behind the scenes for me, not just on this podcast, but what it really takes to make a movie. And I look at The Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, oh my God, how the hell did they do that? Especially back in 01, when it was like the CGI was so good compared to
I would say Lord of the Rings is one of the greatest cinematic achievements
of all time.
And not like the quality, yes, obviously it's great movies, but just the logistical nightmare that it was. It was like 5 years. Oh no, it was 3 years of prep work. So they cast everyone in like 98, you know, and then the movie comes out in 2001 because they shot each one at the same time.
At the same time in New Zealand, right? It's unreasonable how much that.
I can't believe
it was daunting to think about.
A studio greenlit it. You know, like greenlit 3 movies before the first ones even come out. Like, what happens if it bombs? That happens, you know, and then if you're already making the other ones, you're like, I guess we're just going to put it out.
Right.
You know, so
where are you on Titanic? What do you think of Titanic?
Well, I love James Cameron. I haven't watched Titanic in a long time, but it's great. I mean, it's a Hollywood epic, right? You know,
I watched it with my girlfriend recently, and it was like, dude, what was that, 99?
Yeah.
97.
97.
It blows my mind.
He literally knows everything.
It blows.
December of 97.
I watched some behind the scenes stuff, and they had like a not a full scale, but they had some form of that. They were in freezing water,
like a quarter scale.
Yeah, it blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean that was also one of the most notorious film shoots of all time. You know, they had in the big water tank on this thing. Yeah, that's all James Cameron's movies, right? Is Avatar was the same thing, and the Terminator movies and The Abyss, which I don't know. Have you seen The Abyss?
Yeah, you showed me it when we were kids.
Yeah, so they built the entire set in like an underwater bunker.
He loves that. He loves the ocean.
Pushing the envelope.
He went to the bottom. He went to the. Didn't he go to the?
Yeah, Marinara Trench.
Yeah, like what, man? That's
and then he
pass.
obviously went down and looked at the Titanic too.
You know, Tim Ferriss had him and his wife on, but he wasn't even there. He didn't interview him. They just recorded an audio for him and sent it in. It's interesting.
He seems like an interesting character from the research I've done, Mr. Cameron.
I'm predicting it.
He's
We're
intense.
gonna connect each other with some people. I can feel it. I'm telling you.
I like it.
We're gonna end up interviewing Matthew McConaughey, Natalie Portman, those types of people, and I guarantee you that this is gonna create some magic. And also, if you could film our next event, we'd really appreciate that.
If you need any extras, if you need some guy eating a hamburger, let me know, man.
Do you guys have another event lined up? Are you guys even doing? I'm sure they're not doing these events anymore, right?
Not currently.
Right. So we're gonna call it Next Level Live, and it'll be in 2022. No, it will be. So we're gonna try to do the first quarter of 2022, but we're not sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I know that this relationship.
So nothing this year, huh?
No.
They're just not doing them.
No.
That sucks.
We've done a lot of virtual. Like we did 47 weekly masterminds, and then.
Right.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, the COVID thing has killed indie movies because now you need COVID insurance and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And so, like the Batman movie that they were doing with Robert Pattinson, they had to add like $10 million on, and maybe
just
even more
for
COVID stuff because it's just time. You know, it's like everyone has to get tested every day, so that's like doubling the timeline. So so you can't really make an indie film on that budget because most of it's going to go to that. So I'm like, I'm not even going to start. I want to start making the movie now, but prepping it now, meaning, and then filming in 2022 when COVID hopefully is a thing of the past.
Hopefully.
Well, we'll make sure that Next Level Live lines right up.
Perfect timing.
No, I'm kidding. But seriously, this will work out in terms of our networking and stuff. There's no question. Yeah.
Grateful
to have you
man.
on.
Yeah, so grateful. I always learn so much. We'll have to schedule it. Where can people find you on social media? Also,
at Ryan Bliss Films on Instagram and Twitter. At Alice Fades Film on Instagram and Twitter as well. And then Alice Fades Away. You can find it anywhere. So, it's IMDb, Facebook.
We'll link all that stuff in the show notes.
Cool. Yep.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Ryan Bliss, thank you for joining us, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks
Talk
for
to you
having me.
soon.